Room. Lenny Abramson's Room wins the award for lowest budget among this year's Best Picture nominees. In fact, its budget was roughly 1/25th of what the most expensive nominee cost. I know that lower budget movies have a smaller threshold to become profitable. A lot of them struggle to find an audience because they can so easily fly under the radar. Please, don't let that happen with this movie. Setting aside the Oscar nominees and the awards contenders, if you only see one movie from 2015, make it Room. We open with 5-year-old Jack, played by Jacob Tremblay, who lives in a 10x10 enclosed space with his mother, Ma, played by Brie Larson. Jack believes that the entire world is contained within this 10x10 space that he calls Room, and that the images of the outside world that he sees on Room's tiny TV set are just make-believe. What Jack doesn't know, but we quickly deduce, is that he and Ma are being held prisoner in a shed by a man that Jack knows simply as Old Nick. It's Ma's conscious decision to keep Jack blissfully ignorant of their predicament. Namely, that they're being held there against their will, that there's a whole world outside of Room that Jack has never seen and may never see. That Ma once lived in that world, but she was abducted by Old Nick when she was 17, and that she's been continually raped by him for the last 7 years. Hence, Jack. Seeing a possible opportunity for escape, Ma attempts to explain to Jack bits and pieces of reality, that there's a world outside of Room, a notion that he's, understandably, resistant to. Eventually, Jack begins to believe Ma, and she's able to use him to deceive Old Nick into taking Jack outside. This leads to a rescue of Ma, a reunion between Ma and her parents, and to Ma trying to readjust to the world, as Jack experiences it for the first time. Given the subject matter and the real-life cases that inspired it, this movie could have gone a number of ways. There are a number of details and themes it could have chosen to hone in on. Instead of focusing on Ma's capture or escape, and it's important to stress this isn't an escape movie, the movie mostly focuses on the mundane, what life is like for Ma and Jack inside Room, and outside Room once they get there. As it turns out, the situation Ma and Jack find themselves in is a surprisingly apt metaphor for what it's like to be a parent. I'm not a parent, but I'm sure every parent at some point feels like they're trapped in a small room with their kid. That every parent feels that inescapable frustration, having to create the world for your child because you're their only frame of reference for everything. On the other side of that coin, Room also epitomizes what it's like to be a child. Childhood often feels like you're trapped in a room with your parent. How suffocating it can be to have to rely on them for everything. And in the escape sequence, Jack enters the world for the first time, meaningfully without Ma by his side. Children grow up, and they outgrow the need to be constantly cared for, and they go out into the world without the guidance of their parents. Jack does this in a very literal sense. The entire movie is from Jack's point of view, and because Jack is experiencing everything in the world for the first time, it makes the audience see things with fresh eyes. This is never more apparent than in the escape sequence. Jack sees the sky for the first time. He feels the wind in his hair for the first time. He realizes how impossibly big the world is for the first time. And you can't help but feel small and marvel at everything with Jack. The whole escape sequence is unbelievable. Equal parts tense and thrilling, emotional and cathartic, but it also has this transcendent quality of how beautiful the world is, as much as we take it for granted. Some of the scenes in the movie are very emotional, but in an unsurprising way. You expect certain scenes to be affecting just based on the premise in the trailer. There are also moments that the audience is presented with simple everyday things, but presented them as if they're new, and thus we see the beauty in them. And those are the unexpected, highly emotional moments. To properly pull off Jack, 7-year-old Jacob Tremblay had to bring a wide spectrum to that character, and his performance is easily the best acting from a child that I've ever seen. No disrespect to Abraham Atta in Beast of No Nation this year. But the praise for Tremblay's performance shouldn't just go to Tremblay, but also to director Lenny Abramson and co-star Brie Larson. When dealing with a 7-year-old's attention span, you can't just run through the scene over and over and over again, take after take like you normally do, especially when shooting in an actual 10x10 space. So instead, Abramson would have Tremblay do a few takes of one part of the scene, and then jump to a different part of the scene for a few takes, and then jump back, etc. This way, Tremblay was always on his toes and his performance never felt stale. But that's not easy on Brie Larson either. She had to stay on her toes too, and always be sharp and ready to work any part of a given scene. Add that to the fact that she had to react off of a 7-year-old. Everything about Larson's performance impressed me. While in room, she had to be a pillar of strength and patience for Jack, and for Jacob Tremblay, incidentally. But she also had to play a savvy but seemingly helpless victim for her captor. Outside of room, she has to suddenly transition to playing a daughter, more or less the opposite of what she was doing in room. Her character seems so level-headed and well-adjusted while in room, and especially immediately after leaving room, that it's not until she walks into her childhood bedroom in her parents' house that you begin to appreciate this girl essentially left the world at age 17 and had to go through some pretty formative years locked away alone or with a small child. The most important aspect of her character is that she only survived room and kept both her hope and her sanity because she had a person to take care of, Jack. Once she's out of room, she resists anyone doing that for her, much to her own detriment. The main thematic idea of the film is that we all rely on other people for strength, sometimes selfishly so, but it's essential that we do so. We'd be lost otherwise. Room is an incredible achievement. It's thrilling but mundane. It's seriously emotionally draining but never overly sentimental. It brings us back to childhood wonder and allows us to consider when we lost ours. It's about putting your past behind you and forgiving yourself for what you've done or haven't done. It's about how other people can give us strength, and with the right support system, you can make it through anything. Need to catch up on all the Oscar-nominated movies? Watch them with Movies on Demand from the comfort of your home through your local cable provider. Go to rentmoviesondemand.com for more information. And while you're at it, you can win free Movies on Demand if you can predict the Oscars. Go to mod.moviesondemandpool.com and use the pool login information in the description below to join my personal Oscar prediction pool. But to win, you have to beat me. Good luck and happy Oscar season.